So here I have an old Zither banjo, built in the early 20th century, probably around about sort of 1910, maybe 1920. And before I cut the strings off, I realised it had a very high action. That's without having a bridge, so there's an issue somewhere. The first thing I'm going to check is for neck straightness. So what I would generally do first is to eyeball it down the length of the neck, and I've done that, and I've put a straight edge on it, and it is remarkably flat. These often suffer with warped or twisted necks. The other issue can be where the heel has come away from the body, and that's intact too. And considering this is a non-named Zither banjo, and often these are quite badly made, it is actually in remarkably good condition. The fingerboard's good, hardly any wear, and yeah, so the next thing to check why it's got such a high action is to check the pot, and quite often the pot warps. The tension of the strings on it causes it to twist. It goes a bit like the shape of a Pringle. If you imagine that, the crisp, the Pringle, it goes a bit like that. Now then, what I can do is stick this sort of straight edge across here, and you can see there, big gap. But if you come along here, what you'll see is that at the tailpiece end, doesn't actually have a tailpiece, just the strings just go into those little pins at the end of on the tension hoop. There's a gap, so that suggests that it's higher at this end than it is at this end, and that's usually caused by the pot warping. Now then, I've had a good look at the pot. It seems to be straight. It seems to be, again, in good shape. And what I have noticed is, I'm not sure if you can see it down there, maybe that side. In here, you can see there is actually a dowel rod. And again, often these, especially the cheaper ones, don't have a dowel rod. It would just be a neck screwed to the pot, so everything goes twisted after a while. This has the dowel rod, so that means actually the pot has been kind of reinforced. So the next thing to do is to take out the head assembly and find out what's going on. It's basically undo these screws, it will pop out. It's usually only like 4 of these actually holding it in. A lot of these are just for show. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so as suspected, there were 5 screws holding this down, and that is the assembly. I should pop that there for now. Ooh, so there's enough fluff and DNA material in there to recreate another human being, I reckon. So that's quite interesting, this little cutout here. There's a dent there. So what I'm assuming, so I think what's happened, well, not what's happened, but how this has been built. So that's a cutout there, and that allows for this part of the rim to sit below the dowel rod. Now they haven't done it at the front end, and you can see here where it's rested against it, which means that the pot assembly is actually sitting at a twist. Something else I noticed when I took it apart is that, see these brackets? This one at the tail piece end is bent, which is raising up the back end of the pot assembly. So it's my suspicion that this has actually been set up badly from the day it was made. So 100 years people have been playing this instrument, and the action has been horrendous, which could be a reason why it's not got a huge amount of play on it, a huge amount of wear on the fingerboard. So maybe people just didn't play it very often. I think what I'm going to do is hoover out all this gross stuff, and then I shall replace the bent ones. I've got a few spare bits, so I shall replace the bent ones with straight ones. If I can't straighten them, the chances are if I try to straighten that, it'll probably snap. And I shall do here what they've done here. So I shall cut very carefully. I'll cut a little trench to allow for the pot to sit in it, and hopefully we can bring the pot down and it can be nice and flush with the top of the rim. Right, so after having a good old rummage around the workshop, I did manage to find some of these hooks, but it turns out that every single one I had was different. So using these tools of persuasion, I managed to bend them back into shape, and amazingly none of them snapped. And the aim was to get the hooks to sit above the rim, above the skin, yeah? So that means that the skin is going to be sitting below the level of the pot, which means your bridge will sit lower, you get a better action here. So that's all done. Next thing is to get rid of this little critter, and I shall be back. Okay, so I've hoovered out the dust bunnies, and actually I think in the violin world I think they're called tone balls. Well, the little balls of fluff and skin congeal and sort of gather, and anyway, it does have some writing on it. I think it says not polished, something else under the pot, but I'm guessing that was part of the manufacturing process. You might have noticed this. This is a little turnbuckle that puts pressure against the edge of the pot, because the strings are attached directly to the pot rather than having a tailpiece. It stops the pot from being pushed back into the neck. Right, so next is to start cutting this section, which is quite handy. This dent here, so it gives me an idea of where to go. Okay, so I think the first thing I need to do is to take it apart. So detach the neck from the pot. Basically, you've got two screws holding it all together. And it's funny really, because if I was to make a banjo, there's no way I'll just wang in a couple of big old wood screws. But it worked. It's been survived for over 100 years, so it should hopefully pop off somehow. Oh, look. Right, well, there you have it. There's a little wedge there of something. I shall keep that handy. Put it on there. What does that say? Right, so as you can see, I've cut a little chunk out of there, it's about a third of the way down. There's still plenty of strength in this, I think, to you know, not compromise the sort of strength of the banjo. And this, as you can see, slots into there nicely, and it is sitting, yeah, got a good depth down into there, so it's definitely going to be sitting lower than the outer edge of the pot. Right, so I've cleaned up the fretboard. I've filed the edges of the frets because they tend to stick out where the wood has shrunk. Very common. And I've gone over it, checked for high frets. There's only a couple, which is amazing. Sorted out all the edges, sorted out all the frets, gone over the whole thing, polished up the frets with some 000 wire wool. And now I'm putting some lemon oil onto the fretboard just to feed it, let it soak in. I'll let that soak in overnight. The same with all this. This is the ebony headstock overlay, which is actually ebony. I think the fingerboard is probably a dyed fruit wood of some sort. Okay, so it's had a couple of days where the oil has soaked in, and the fretboard is looking lovely. I think what I'm going to do, I was going to put nylon strings on this. I have this set of Clifford Essex Zither banjo strings, and they're a mixture of steel and nylon. So first, second and fifth are plain steel, third is ground nylon, and the fourth is a silver wound ground nylon, which is I guess the modern equivalent to steel and gut and silk, I think. So here they are. I shall start fitting these. Right, so here we have it. Zither banjo complete and playing. It's been strung up with some Clifford Essex Zither banjo set, and that is a mixture of steel and nylon. I've got the action down to around 3mm at the 12th fret, which is nice and playable. It's really nice. I'll do a little demonstration of sunflower dance. Mistakes and all. But there you go. Nice little zither banjo brought back from the dead. Let's hope it's got another 100 years left of life in it.